All right, what's up, guys? Speed here, and today I'm with PPD. In this segment, we are going to be talking about his thoughts on various esports subjects. What is up, PPD?
Nothing, man. Excited to talk about some Dota. We had a good conversation about my life, and now we're gonna talk about
Yeah.
some specific Dota stuff, which I love getting into from time to time. This is what I know. This is where I can sound smart.
Let's not postpone this any longer, though. First question: I went on Wikipedia, figure out a little bit more about you, and it said that your signature heroes are Treant, Crystal Maiden, and Vengeful Spirit. Would you change any of these, or do you agree with this?
I'm trying to remember like when I used to win so many games with Vengeful Spirit, and I feel like it had to have
Yeah.
been like TI4 area or something, because this hero has just not been like outstanding in a long, long time. I don't know, kind of a strange hero. People try to like he comes in and out of the metas occasionally, but he's never there to stay. And the position 5, it's been so about laning lately. So I would change Venge. I think that I would also change Crystal Maiden. I do feel like I play an amazing Crystal Maiden, but not really a signature hero, I guess you could say. I feel like you could throw Bane. PPD
Okay.
Bane is pretty good, and
Yeah,
uh,
that's what I was thinking.
now that Abaddon is back, I really like that hero. I also took a lot of pride in playing Position 5 Wraith King back in the day. One of my
Wraith King.
yeah, Position 5 Wraith King. It would be PPD and Mason with Position 5 Wraith King Necrophos. That was our strat.
Doesn't work anymore, unfortunately. No Wraith King or with range
I
heroes.
think if you put me and Mason in a lane together and gave him Necro and gave me Wraith King, I guarantee you we'd win that lane.
All right, maybe some All Stars match. You guys got to pick that next time.
Yeah, we will.
Awesome. Okay, so you change out CM and Venge for Bane and Wraith King.
Wraith King's a bit of a stretch, but yeah, I've played a lot of Train. I've played a ton of Abaddon. I used to play a ton of Shaker as well, actually. Only the real fans remember the PPD Position 5 Shaker. There's so many like walk-in echo slams that will blow your mind. Like, how did he do it? I just walk in there, tranquil boots,
How do you even lane?
extra movement
How do
speed.
you
I just fly in there with my level 6 and I destroy people.
how do you lane Pos 5 Earthshaker? It just sounds very underwhelming.
It's kind of the same. You that blink, that Position 4 gets at like 15 to 20 minutes. It's just not there for the Position 5. It's more of a 20 25 minute mark kind of thing.
Okay. Okay. If you're lucky. I think that's solid. So, what are characteristics of prospects? I think a lot of people want to hear from you because you're a captain. I mean, a lot of people would die to be on your team. So, what are some characteristics? Like, what do you value in each role? Pos 1, Pos 2, Pos 3, Pos 4. What do you want to see from these guys when you're looking for a prospect to join your team?
Yeah, it's pretty tough. Unfortunately, like the talent pool at the highest level is it's a little bit small, I think. So generally, like you're just trying to find like the best skilled players, and then you kind of just have to like deal with their personalities. Does that
Really?
make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
Now we're kind of saying like what makes a good 3 player or what makes a good 4 player. And are you asking
Yeah.
like in Dota skills or like in teammate skills?
Yeah, so I know for a lot of teams they often will play around a certain player, right? So do you typically prefer to have like a mid laner or a safe laner as that guy who farms, or do you not really care? Is it just as you said where you just play with whatever you got, make it work?
Yeah. I mean, some teams have strengths and some people have weaknesses. It's about how you hide your weaknesses and promote your strengths. That's like you can win a lot of games that way. Our team is like we have the Ace and Netta who play like these like cheesy, pushy, like they always talk about like the Brood Mother, the Lone Druid, the
Yep.
Furion, Meepo, Lycan, right? Like that's we got the animal players as we like to call them. That's one of our strengths, but it's just kind of random, right? Like we just got these guys on our
Sure.
team, and they just happen to be really good at some of these heroes. And other teams
Okay.
and other players have like different strengths and different weaknesses. So I'll try to answer your question as best I can. Position 1, I really like when the position 1 player has a really wide hero pool. Carries are oftentimes picked very very late into the draft. You'll see exceptions like right now Sven is like really popular, but
Sure.
generally carries and mid laners, like the core positions, those heroes are picked towards the end. And towards the end of drafts, oftentimes is when drafts get most unique because generally during a patch, like people pick the like heroes that are just really strong on the patch because they don't have like as many counters early in
Sure.
drafts. So it's
Yep.
nice to have really wide hero pool, obviously with every player, but it's some people have bigger hero pools and some people have smaller ones. Oftentimes they're also the win condition in games, so they have to be very good about communicating to their teammates that they're playing for like certain item timings, and yeah, like the carries kind of need to be a little bit of leadership role later into the game when they become so important.
Okay.
People need to like play around them.
So they have to know their timing, essentially. You need
Yeah,
them to be reliable in that regard.
they need to know how and when they can win the game. So they are the win condition a lot of the time. And hopefully, like, you know, your entire team's on the same page, but the carry, like, he knows his carry hero. So he kind of needs to have a feel for it, because I don't play that much Medusa. So
No, really?
yeah, so like I don't necessarily know, like, well, when I get my butterfly, like, I'm unkillable. Ace has a way better feel
Okay,
for it than I do.
I see what you're saying. So they need to be able to command at some point in the game.
Yeah. For three position, it's really nice if your three and four position have like some experience playing together, like some synergy. Just because like they're oftentimes like always in the offlane together.
Yeah.
Same thing with like your carry and your five. That's generally how it goes. Like you need to work well together.
Okay. Is that something you've done in the past where you pick up a 3 and 4 offlaner and pause 4 based
I th-
on?
I don't know if I've ever done that in the past, but I think if you could, it'd be a really good idea.
Okay.
You know, kind of finding like two buddies or like two friends. I really like when
Interesting.
the teams have like when the teams are good friends. I think it's super nice, but hard to do. When you have like the brothers on the team, right? Like the Chessie Limp and Z Freak Swindle and
Z Freak Swindle, classic.
yeah, I think it's really good. I think it's really good, like team
Okay.
dynamics, and it's like you can get mad at your brother, but like you know you're not gonna hate him. Whereas like
Gotcha.
some random stranger, like fuck that guy, like I can hate him.
Yeah, of course. All right, that's interesting.
And then
Wow.
for I don't know, for four position, they also need to be like incredibly high skill. I think it's like the highest skilled position. That's not true. Like mid and carry are so important too, but like mid and four, those are the two highest skilled positions for sure.
Okay. Does 4 vary the most? Like, does your game change the most? What makes you say that?
I just feel like a lot of times you are. I feel like the game follows the four position. Like a lot of times he's like that Earth Spirit who's like initiating these engagements and finding people and catching people. But they farm a ton. Like they're like a core whose job like isn't just to sit in lane and farm. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
they need to
Yeah.
get really farmed. They need to do core like things in games, but
Okay.
they don't get to just like AFK in lane and just hit creeps or
That must be why a lot of mid laners like to pick up 4 in their pubs then, right? It's pretty similar in that regard.
yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's just, it's the same thing too with like the mid player. Like they have such big decisions. Like they get this solo experience, right? And then they have to decide how they want to push their advantage. Like, do I go bottom? Do I go top? When do I go? And those are really tough decisions.
Okay.
Carries and offlaners, they kind of just want to stay in their lane until they can't.
Yeah, that's true. What does a 5 do then? They're just chilling?
Five's the hardest, man. I gotta captain all of the goons.
Oh, of course.
I gotta you know hear all the information they're spouting out and then formulate it into a game plan.
Okay. So 5's the hardest, then
Yeah, five is for sure the hardest.
mid and
Not Dota wise, like for otherwise, like teamwork and skill wise. Like
oh, okay.
I'm the
Okay.
most. I'm not saying I'm the most skilled like individually inside Dota player, but definitely up there is like it depends how you look at it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're the leader. You're like the guy who
I'm
commands the people, not necessarily the
I'm
heroes.
rare.
Whoa.
I'm rare. You know what I mean? Like the captains are rare. The players, they're a dime a dozen. Like they're all over the place.
I see what you're saying. You fill a specific role that a lot of people can't.
Yeah. Do you want to
Okay.
talk about like the like each player on my team?
Yeah, yeah, you definitely touched on it a bit, but I think that would be really cool for people. What about each player makes them a good fit for your team or esports in general?
Yeah, I'll just say like why they're good players. I mean, they're on my team because they're good players. I feel like we have opportunities to win, and you don't always have that with certain teams. And sometimes it's easier, and sometimes it's harder. Sometimes you're a top eight team, sometimes you're a top three team, and you just kind of work to go as far as you can. Because all you know, every tournament you see results just go up and down.
So let's start with Ace,
Yeah,
if
Ace.
that makes it easier.
Yeah, like I said, he's a quiet guy. He really just focuses on playing. He's a really big hero pool. That last pick Meepo too is like super nice. Being able to just like him to say like this is a Meepo game or this is a Brood game, and you those heroes are so crazy. Like they sometimes just give you free wins, and be having those at tournaments is pretty nice.
Gotcha. He's the X factor.
Yeah, he does have some X Factor heroes, which is it's juicy. It's nice. When you get
As a captain,
when you get a free
yeah.
win at a tournament game, like we had a game against Vici, right? Like the series against Vici Gaming in Paris.
Right.
We beat them with Meepo, this 22 pick Meepo, right? And without that Meepo pick, maybe we wouldn't have won that series. Maybe when because that immediately sent us to top six. We guaranteed invite to TI, and like a ridiculous amount
Wow.
of money between like top 12 and top six. So
Yeah, that's massive.
and
Just because of a meepo.
yeah, just because of a Meepo. Like maybe we could have won with a different hero, but man, like when we pick like when we have these free wins on these X Factor heroes, like
It's got to feel good.
it's hard to win.
Awesome.
So getting a free one from time to time is nice. Not that the game was free, but easier than others.
Relatively.
Yeah, it's easier
Gotcha.
for us because we have these really high impact heroes. So for
So what about Fada?
yeah, Fada,
Yeah.
I think he's really hardworking. I think he plays like the most pubs. Maybe no, Sox plays a lot of pubs. I don't know. Everybody plays a lot of pubs, but Fada had to switch roles this season to go from offlaner for Team Secret to playing mid for us, which is definitely not easy to do. He had played mid a little bit in the past, but it's been a while, and mid players are like incredibly high skilled, and he's been fighting with them pretty well. I
Yeah,
think.
I think their game changes a lot as well, right? Like mid lane rarely stays the same, the meta and such.
Yeah,
So Fada's done a pretty good job adapting, would you say? Or
yeah, I think he's done a great job of learning new heroes and improving on them, which is exactly what you need to do when you're switching roles. Because it's, off lane and mid don't have very similar pools. For
all right,
Saxa, my favorite thing about Saxa is that when we have like team discussions, I think that he really listens and like really hears like what's being said, and he like kind of like downloads it to memory, and then he actually applies it in the game. That's a skill in itself, I think. Like kind of like reading comprehension. Like when we talk about things, like he listens and understands them.
and better than anyone else you've played with. Would you say he's number one at
Now,
doing that?
I don't know about better than anyone else. I just think that he's very, very good at it.
Okay.
I think it's hard to do.
Would you say that allows him to keep the team together almost because he just knows what people are thinking?
Yeah, Soxa definitely steps up in some games, like and turns into like the captain and the leader, and everyone is like, when Soxa's feeling the game, like everybody just shut up and listen to Soxa.
That's
And
awesome.
He's
So
gotten
he's the
us,
backup captain.
yeah, he's gotten us through like some pretty tough matches for sure.
Wow. Okay, that's awesome. So in 33, what does he do?
33 is a little bit quieter. Generally, just he's off lane, just focuses on his lane, and I think that like when he gets ahead in games or has a really good laning phase, he also like kind of turns into this leader, and he knows how to play like his heroes like super well. Like he knows like when we should be pushing as a team, and when he wants people to play around him, and when he doesn't want people to play around him. He's got a really good game sense for that.
Okay. So it sounds like your team has a lot of like niche leaders where they pick up the slack in certain games. Is that a quality you really like to look for when recruiting players, or is it something that just happened to fall into place with these guys?
No, yeah, it's just kind of extra. I think it's just nice to have. It's like a bonus. They themselves are excellent players, and I would have played with them for countless reasons.
Awesome. And what about yourself? What do you do?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I think I play pretty well, honestly, on position 5. I think these like last 2 years, I think I've actually played like some of my best Dota in terms of like skill wise. But that's kind of like people are always improving. So I think one of my strengths as like a captain is like I'm not afraid to bring it up or to like say like let's take one more look at it. Do you know what I mean?
You go the extra step, basically.
Yeah, you have to like everybody needs to be on the same page, and it's I'm just gonna like we're just gonna keep like pecking away at it like until TI, and hopefully like we kind of like hit this peak at TI and everything comes together.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone would be super hyped if we see you place number 1, number 2,
Yeah,
anywhere up there.
I guess you could say
Yeah.
I think about how to lead the team. That's probably like my greatest strength.
Okay. So yeah, because you mentioned earlier, you fill that niche captain role that a lot of players don't. Like a lot of people, they're just clicking their buttons.
Yeah, some people just show up to scrims and play. That's not what it is. It's way bigger than that.
That's cool because I think a lot of people don't understand that, right? They just
Yeah, it was cool when I first started on Evil Geniuses. Like we had Arteezy and Zai, the sad boys. It's like I had this idea, like we saw like Arteezy like kind of like dominating mid lane and stuff, and we were just like, dude, you should just play like Shadow Fiend and like carry, like you should play like carry style mid lane. And we kind of like honestly like changed Dota forever, like by like Arteezy just going mid on carries, and just like winning the lane and then winning the game.
yeah, that seems like the meta now, right? With people like Nisha playing Naga mid, Morphling. I mean, you have
We used to have such crazier mids. Like, anyways, I feel like the mid lane kind of changed, and that's because like I had an idea about how to, lead the team.
okay. So you don't look at Dota as a at its face value. You try to look in depth and really figure out what you can do next.
Yeah, the game is more or less like always the same. It's just like that's why people are always like, "Oh, Peter, what do you think of the patch?" I don't really care about the patch. Like, I'm just here to like learn the patch and do my best on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So what aspects then like never change about Dota?
teamwork, teamwork. Yeah, teamwork.
Teamwork. That's it.
I think so. I think it's everything.
Okay. Okay. That's the most important thing by far. Like just being able to
Yeah, and
to talk to your
kind of
teammates.
I think I said earlier that like the player pool is kind of small, like the skill wise. That being
Yeah.
like, I also think that there's like all of these like top 500 Euro players, like they're all pretty good, and if you put them on like a really good team, they're probably going to be successful.
Okay.
So like there are
So
a
it's
lot of
about,
there's a lot of skilled players. There's just less like nothing really separates them from each other.
and you think that the communication, like the teamwork, is what would separate them
I don't know.
potentially.
You just have no idea, right? You're just picking. You're just like if you wanted to go recruit a player and you're like, oh, this guy's top 300. If you didn't like know him, like obviously you've never played on a team with him before, so
Yep.
it's just a total shot in the dark. Oh, I hope he's good. I hope he's a good teammate. I hope he. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's hard.
it's tough. It's
Okay.
tough for sure. Very very risky. That's why people. That's why like and people are weird about it because they think like the only way they're gonna get noticed is like to be like top one on leaderboards.
But it's not that.
It's it is that, but then it's more than that. And I think that that other side of it, but it's hard to get exposure. So what can you do?
Yeah, but then you, I think you mentioned before though, you gotta like play on teams, right? That might have been during the other segment, but
Definitely.
right,
But if there's no
you just gotta.
teams, if there's no teams,
But even if you just make your own team, would you say that's better
you
than
have
just
yeah
playing pubs?
you got to make your own team.
Okay, you have to.
Yeah.
Okay. I think a lot of people actually need to hear that, right? There's a lot of tier two players who just play pubs.
No, it's so stupid. I talk to my brother about it all the time because he's like he's trying to like I don't know he would love to be a Dota pro and I mean who wouldn't like it's pretty good. But yeah, you got to be on a team and people that are just like full of excuses all the time and not doing it like they're not going anywhere. I really truly believe that like you're actually just wasting your time.
Gotcha. Cool. All right. I mean, that's definitely, I think, a new light for a lot of people because when you hear tier one Dota, you're like top one, top five NA. So awesome. Moving on though, what are like the priorities of the support? Because more importantly, have they changed? Has the priority of a pos five changed over the last 5 years or so? What have you noticed?
Well, I think when you're like are you talking about like how to pick them or like oh what am I thinking about when I'm playing
Sure.
support?
Let's start with the laning stage.
Sure.
Has the laning stage of pos five changed?
It's just become much more over the time people have just focused more and more on winning lanes in the early game and the people when you get leads what they're trying to do is just push those leads as best they can and people have gotten much better at that so laning phase is like 5 to 10 minutes and during that time like if you get too far behind like you just can't get back in the game
Okay.
so my hero pool has just gotten like a lot of like lane securing heroes.
Yeah, you mentioned the ABBA in particular.
Yeah, bad end. Like even I played Furion for a while. Bane. Sometimes you get like an ogre or. And it really does depend on like the matchups that you have with the enemy heroes. But you just want to like I want to make sure that my carry can hit creeps, because he
Okay.
can't. I don't want him to get behind or the person I'm laning with to be able to hit creeps.
Yeah, it's got to be the mental aspect as well,
Yeah,
right?
we
Like,
focus
I mean,
a ton on the CS and denies. That's huge. It's totally
okay,
massive. Like we're always fighting for denies, but what's even more so we focus on is positive trades, like clicking the opponent twice when they can only click you once. Does that make sense? And you're always kind of like dancing like on the like footwork, I guess, like back and forth. And
yeah, in
you're
and out of the
basically
trees.
yeah, you're just playing with like the range. You're playing with range, right? You want to try and click them, like when you're zoning them, that you try to click them from outside of like the creep aggro range, so you don't fuck up the wave. That's super important.
Yeah, surely you can't think of all these things though. Would you say this is just muscle memory at some point,
Yeah,
or
it's for sure muscle memory, but it is something to think about. Maybe if you like watching a replay, like and you have time to like go over it if you're not doing these things already, and you
okay,
can always do it better. These ideas they're very like standard. Like there's only like so many things you could do during laning phase. It's like when do you pull? How do you pull? How do you zone? How do you just like play a lane straight up? Like going CS in the eyes. How do you zone
sure,
like one guy that's like kind of by himself? How do you move yourself in the trees to get this best angle or like to click them from fog so that way they can't click you back? That kind of stuff.
sure, and that's what people have started to focus on a lot more, rather than
How do,
just playing for the whole game.
yeah, exactly. How do you win your lane?
Okay,
Or how do you not even how do you win your lane? How do you do the best in that lane that you can do? Sometimes you're in a losing lane. It's just how it is.
yeah,
That's how the
and
draft goes, right?
yeah, exactly. And talking about the draft for all the pos five players who have to pick first, would you then say you have to pick for the laning stage, or that's the best thing you can do, like in
Definitely,
a pub, for
definitely,
instance?
definitely. That's like for in pubs it's a little tough. People also don't draft as well as they do in like professional games in pubs. So sometimes like you could pick like some lion on first pick, and yeah, sure he's not the strongest in lane, but he scales really well into the late game. So that's like a lot of times I prefer in pubs because there's not a lot of teamwork and people aren't pushing that advantage as hard as they do in
Okay.
professional games. I like
Okay.
to pick heroes that scale better into the late game. That way, like I can have a bigger impact on the game.
Sure.
However,
But
it,
it,
in
is it a mix? I'm
yeah,
sorry. Go ahead.
in professional, it can be a mix. But like when you pick for lanes, you got to make sure that there's not like all these fuck ups along the way that delay the game. Because if you don't scale as hard as the enemy team does, like their Lion is going to do way more than your Furion,
Yep.
generally speaking. Because and
Yeah.
that's
Sure.
and that's why we've seen like a lot of lane supports get first picked because oftentimes like their goal is just you're gonna counter pick what we pick anyways. So let's just pick this. I call them bosses. Like we put the lane boss. So you just
Lane
pick
boss.
you pick a big lane boss on one pick, and there's not that like many heroes that they can pick to really counter there. Like right now, like Chen is that first pick hero because like you pick Chen,
Yep.
and you don't care what you're playing against. Like you're gonna win your lane,
You're gonna win.
and that means your carry's gonna
Okay.
farm.
Sure. So the main two categories it sounds like, specifically for people looking to pick in pubs, is the complete lane dominators, like
Yeah.
the Chens,
Yep.
where you don't care, and then the semi lane dominators who also scale.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's generally like the team that first picks oftentimes wins their side lanes, and the team that has last pick should win the mid lane. Does that make sense? So on second pick, it's really also really important to like pick like strong duos of lanes. That's why we see like Sanking Leshrac or something on 2-3 is
Sure.
really popular, or used to be popular at some point, because these
Okay.
heroes they're gonna go to that off lane and they're gonna do pretty okay against like everything, and
Yeah, but then
that's why they're really good to pick. Like that's why they're really good on second pick.
sure. And then a few tournaments ago, we saw something like OD when he was popular as like a first phase hero. Was that only when teams had first pick, or did it not matter?
A lot of times on first pick for your cores, especially like a mid hero, like he's gonna get countered no matter what. The enemy team, like if you
Okay.
pick your mid hero on like fourth or fifth on first pick, he's gonna get countered on 22. So if or on last pick. So if you just pick him like second or at any point during your draft on first pick, OD was probably just strong enough in that meta to where like he didn't have that many bad matchups. Or I think
Okay.
like there's like Team Secret really loved him for mid one for a while, and they just picked this hero and they think that mid one, no matter what, like no matter if he's countered, like he's still going to be able to have an impact on the game.
Yeah, in this tournament it was TA, right?
Yeah, TA was picked quite a bit as like yeah that hero. I think we saw Death Prophet a couple times as well. No, you're right. TA got moved up to the first phase, right, for some teams.
Exactly.
The hero
Yeah,
says,
it
like,
was really weird. Yeah.
the hero has like very few bad matchups.
But moving on from exactly Dota or something Dota related, what is your day in the life? I know this is extremely general, but you could approach it however you want. Like, what is the typical amount of time you spend on certain activities throughout the day?
Yeah, so I'll give you like, do you want to do like a day at home or like a day at an esports tournament?
Yeah, let's start with the esports tournament. So let's say you're at either a training camp or a tournament.
Yeah, let's go with the tournament. So, and it's very, 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 very similar. Most of the time, like, wake up in the hotel, like, do all the things you need to get away, like, wake up, like, take a shower, brush your teeth, like, do all that stuff. A lot of times it's really nice to go downstairs and, like, eat breakfast at, like, the hotel buffet, right? Get a meal in. And then it's pretty
Of course.
much straight to the venue because, like, at least in these last couple tournaments, we've always had the morning games. So, you leave at, like, 10-ish or 11 or noon, depending on what the call time is. Get in a shuttle, which the tournament provides. Once you're at the venue, you kind of just like set up with whatever you're doing, whether you're like sometimes you're practicing, sometimes you're competing. Basically, just go to some area, right? It could be a stage, it could be a back room. Go play your games. Take a little break after each game, like go to the bathroom, talk about the next one. When that's done, people usually just leave, or I just usually just leave. Go back to the hotel or the practice area, wherever it might be. Watch the other games that are happening. Eat some food, dinner. I read some esports article about like the food and like why is it such a big deal for esport players, and it was kind of interesting that for esport players, like people really do like care about like the food that they're eating like quite a lot because it's like some of the only time during the day that we have like a break. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
Because like even if we're just like chilling in the hotel room or chilling in our practice room, right? It's not really like time off. Like we're still like at this tournament. But like when you're eating, you're just kind of eating. I don't know if
And then
I don't know if I explained that well.
yeah, but what type of foods do you focus on then, right? Because
Yeah, it's totally random. It depends where we're at, and depends like sometimes tournaments and stuff have like catered food, and a lot of times like we just order delivery, and
okay.
our manager does like all of the delivered food orders and deliveries and everything for us. So we just kind of chill and we just focus on watching the tournaments and maybe playing some pubs or talking about tomorrow's matches.
So it sounds like your whole day is engulfed by some sort of Dota.
Yeah, exactly. Like tournaments are full time. Like people are like, oh, like you didn't go out and like see the place. Like not until like the tournament's over, like or you're eliminated.
Okay. So have you ever intentionally gotten eliminated in order to see the
No,
see the
no,
surrounding city?
no, definitely not. Like I'm way too competitive and I care way too much about my career and money and all kinds of things.
Sure. So if you're at home though, is it a little bit more laid back, or are you basically in the same grind?
Yeah, home is it depends on kind of what's going on. Like right now we're like in a pretty cushy spot because like we're qualified to TI. It's
Sure.
like all we really care about. So I think people at least I have been playing like a little bit less lately, but we just started back with practice. So like a typical practice day, like we play like generally like 4 games, I think, 4 scrims, and those are like separated by like an hour or something like that. Or sometimes they can be back to back. But a day in the life, I'll do a day in the life at home and wake up, get ready, and then find breakfast. I really like getting out of the house in the morning. That's like the one time like I can really get out of my apartment. So like I
Okay.
really like walking to like do errands or like grab coffee is really nice. Like going to little cafes and getting coffee is a nice way for me to like stretch my legs and leave my computer for a little bit because it is kind of
Yeah, you
like
get,
you can kind of get trapped in this like isolated life if you're just at home. I don't have to go outside. You know what I mean?
of course.
I can just sit here all day.
But it's important for you, right? Like, so you don't stress out over the whole day. Do you do this more than once a day?
Yeah, I mean, I like getting out. That's the thing. Like, I like having excuses to leave my apartment, but they're just sometimes hard to find. So it's like, and sometimes I do just want to sit here and play video games and play Dota, especially.
Okay.
Like, especially like it depends. Like right now, I just don't feel like we're getting like way too off topic, or like I'm being way too specific. I think.
All right, back on track then. So you play your 4 scrims, and
Yeah.
then moving after the 4 scrims, will you always play pubs every single day?
No, not every day. It depends on like I said, like if you have other stuff going on. We play so much video games, like people really take advantage of opportunities to get outside of the house. So if you have something going on, like you generally go and do it, like a dinner or something like that. And then a lot of people do just kind of like chill and just like play more pubs and practice heroes and that way like when they come back to practice the next day, they're like, oh dude, like this guy did this to me in a pub last night. Like you should try it. Like you learn new things from playing pubs.
Okay. And you almost apply it in the scrims the following day, potentially, yeah?
Sometimes, yeah. Like sometimes, like, oh, I feel like this hero's really strong right now. Like I keep losing to it in pubs. Like, have you played it? Like, what do you think of it? Like, should we be picking it more? Should we move it up on like our priority and stuff? So, it's a lot of nice information to like be able to parse through.
Yeah, I know some idea I had almost a year ago. I just thought pros strictly played competitive matches. Like that was the way to learn. Like the only reason they would play pubs was to relax. That was an idea I had, but you're saying it's more centered around getting new ideas. Like it's almost like it's the laboratory where new things come up.
Yeah, it's also a great place to like train your individual skill to kind of like practice moving your like the muscle memory. It's also some people just really like for some people it is just really fun. Like some people just like it, and some people like it's how they relax. Like if we lose a big match or if anybody really loses matches like pros and stuff, like a lot of times the first thing you'll see them do is like go back to the practice room and start playing pubs immediately. Because it's like when you're playing Dota and you're playing at like a pub, for example, you kind of forget about like what's going on in your life and you kind of just focus on that game. Like it takes all of your attention. So if you're having a bad day, just play some Dota, and you can just think about the Dota. Hopefully, like there's not too much, negative shit going on where it affects your Dota. But you kind of see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's an outlet.
It's definitely an outlet. It's an escape.
Moving on to like some interesting things that maybe have happened during a tournament for you. Is there any like your whole Dota career or even Han? What is like the funniest thing that has ever happened at all? Any memory that stands out?
There's a lot of funny. I have a lot of funny stories about things that have happened at like esport tournaments and stuff. Most of them are like kind of at the after parties when people let their guard down. Get pretty funny.
Okay.
And sometimes people don't like when you talk about those. I'm trying to think if there's anything of recent memory.
I can niche it down a little bit. Where is there any player where you don't have to talk about the exact experience, but someone that people would not think to be crazy that have done something out of this world that you've witnessed? Anyone in particular? Not that you have to bring up the exact memory, but for instance, what comes to mind for me is like S4. Is there anyone like you've seen anyone that people wouldn't expect?
Nah, like some player like Sorry, I'm like losing my voice, but S4, like I don't know, like you rarely see people outside of their professional environment. Do you know what I mean? So like, and you don't really talk to them anyways. don't really talk to other teams. You do a little bit sometimes. Like some people have like friends and stuff, but it's pretty like, yeah, we're like, we might ride the same bus, but like we're not gonna talk to each other. Sometimes we do though. It just depends. But we all like see each other so much and stuff that we're kind of just like comfortable with each other, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, you're on the same level.
Yeah, it's hard to describe. They're just coworkers. Do you see it like you know what I mean?
Okay. Is there almost? Do you feel like there's a lack of rivalry then, if they're just coworkers?
I think there is a huge lack of rivalry, no doubt. But people just like rivalry is kind of like, what is that like? It's kind of just like what, animosity or something like that. Like,
Yeah, I guess.
it's like it's kind of just like immature and unprofessional, right?
That's true. Yeah. How do you manage that for sure?
I don't know if people really have like big personal beefs. Like it's usually kind of with like ex teammates that people came to disagreements that they couldn't work out, so they said see ya. Or like maybe they fought a lot on a team or something like that. But like once you're off the team, like you're just kind of like cool casual acquaintances again. I think so. Everyone's like super chill.
That's pretty awesome. Because
Yeah,
I would think maybe
it's also
there's
like a really tame crowd. Like we're gamers. We're not like, yo, let's settle this out.
Bodybuilders.
Let's settle this outside, all right? Like you're not gonna hear that at an esports party.
no McGregors.
No, definitely not. I mean, there's some fighters for sure, but nah, everyone's
Iceberg.
yeah, everyone's just there to have fun, so it's good.
Let's make this the last question. But in the recent ESO1 Birmingham, Secret put on a show, right? I mean, super cool drafts, super great play. What made them so successful? Anything in particular that you noticed?
Team Secret, huh? Well,
Yeah,
I think they have the best teamwork. I also think that like Mid One is quite a gem of a player. I think that he really understands like the game quite well, and I think Puppy is just really on top of it as well right now. This guy is like coming up with new stuff, and he's kind of an innovator, and he's a great leader. So, when you have a group of guys that listen to you and like play really well, like it's it's not a surprise that he's winning.
Okay, so it once again comes back to the teamwork. Then it sounds like
Definitely, and like that team is full of really really top-notch players, and they also have a really top-notch leader. So
it all comes together. All
yeah,
right, awesome.
They're a tough team, but definitely beatable. Yeah, people are getting close. EG was really close, and I'm sure somebody will get him.
Yeah, it seemed like EG was going to win, actually. I mean, especially in the final game. So it'll be cool to see what happens to them, especially at TI, how they place.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? Just
another OG coming in.
It's just another tournament, so you never know.
All right, awesome. Thanks for answering these questions on esports, and hopefully you guys will check out the next segment. We're going to be seeing PPD form his own volleyball team out of various Dota personalities. It's going to be a blast, so definitely recommend checking that out wherever it is.